Okay, welcome. We will call to order
Recording in progress.
Call to order the Wednesday, July 15th, 2026 regular meeting of the Aspen Pitkin County Housing Authority. First item on the agenda is roll call.
Okay. Scott?
Present.
Christine? Yes. Carson?
Here.
John?
Here.
Ted?
Present.
And Jackie?
Present.
Okay, do we have any agenda amendments? Hearing none, we will move to public comment. Is there anyone that would like to make public comment? If you'd like to make public comment, we have a 3-minute time limit on our public comment. If you would, please come on up, have a seat, and just state your name for the record.
Hi, Robin Whitman. I am back again, being pleasantly persistent. First of all, you guys have been doing a great job with all the different things that you have been evaluating and the changes that you are attempting to make to fill some of the vacant housing. So I'm going to start there. And what I have asked you all along has never been to change anything. What I have asked you, if you might consider in the mix somebody, myself, and perhaps others that don't meet the work requirements. I've lived in town for 35 years, been very involved in many, many ways, volunteer, civic, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Income qualified. I've owned a business and work remotely, so I've never worked in Pitkin County, but I've contributed in many other ways. So I just wondered if you might help me understand why you might not consider this as part of the mix of all the things that you're evaluating. So if you can help me understand that, that'd be great. I've never asked you to change anything. I would not expect you to, but just to consider myself and perhaps some others in similar situations as part of the mix of everything you're evaluating. And you're doing a great job, so I can't take that away at all. So that's my comment.
Thanks, Robin.
Okay?
I could jump in quickly. I mean, I think part of what's happening here is that we're funded by, in a lot of ways, public funds.
Yep, I understand that.
And so the balance that we strike as a board is to make sure that whoever we're benefiting with those public funds is also we're recuperating those into our coffers here in this county and in this city. And I think that that's the general issue with why we can't just say, absolutely, we love it. That shirt looks great, let's go. And so I don't think that there's much precedent for it on this board. I also think it would be a challenge because we're using public goods for a private benefit. And that's challenging. So we'd have to find a way that doesn't take from any other members of the public.
I understand that, and I get it, and I've never had anything about that. Yeah. I pay taxes here. I vote here. Yeah. My business is registered here.
That's right.
So, I do contribute even financially those ways. I'm paying taxes. I've been a tax-paying member of the community. So, while I haven't worked here.
Yeah, and I mean, going back to the founding of APCHA, right? It's always been around workforce housing, right? And it's like our next meeting in August, we have a hearing for somebody who couldn't prove that they worked here. And so, right, I mean, it's sort of the rules apply to everybody or they don't apply to anybody.
I understand.
Yeah, and so, if we did it, it would set a precedent that would sort of unwind the whole system, right? So
it's time for new precedents.
we can't, right? We sort of can't go down that road. It's just workforce housing.
Got it. But you still have vacancies, don't you, at the Aspen Country Inn?
Do we still have vacancies?
We have 2 vacancies, which...
But are those the same vacancies or are they rolling?
They're the same from the last time we talked, but they're rolling in general. So that's sort of back to a historical average.
I think in general, we have
pretty
regularly regular vacancies.
Yeah, as opposed to this time last year where we had 7, 8, 9 vacancies.
Right.
That's the only reason I really started this, because I understand everything you're saying. But there have been so many vacant units for a long period of time that I thought it might make sense for everybody.
I hear you, and that's the reason that we don't do LIHTC properties anymore.
Got it.
Because we end up with it's a federal. It's different, right? And,
I understand.
And it's such
I also
a low,
wanted to understand that I never would have done any of this if they were not vacant units to begin with, because I thought it might work you
Yeah.
know, for everybody, it could be a good thing all the way around, because I know
Yeah.
it's the city money.
Nobody in this room wants a vacant unit, I
I
promise.
know you don't. Can someone to keep coming back.
Right. Thanks, Robin.
In fact, Robin, we're going over our housing needs assessment today, and if you wanted to stay, you might learn that you're not alone in the need for housing in this
You know,
valley.
you guys work really hard, so I get it. Thank you.
Come on.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kay Sandberg, and I've been in employee housing where I'm at for 34 years. And so I just have two comments. One is in the rules, my grandkids can't inherit my place. And so I would like for you to consider that option, because family's everything. Instead of them moving away, it'd be great if they could come, because my daughter's here, her family, but they could never buy in here. But they could inherit my place if the rules were changed. So that's my request, so we could keep the family here, right? And my next thing is, I've talked to lots of seniors, and they feel that they're held hostage by APCHA because they would like to move. I know quite a few seniors who would like to move, but they can't afford to move. So, guy, a couple weeks ago, he wants to move to Newcastle. A gal wants to move to Glenwood, but they can't afford it. So I think we should open up our minds and think of a way that we can afford to give these people money so they can move, so we can turn over the housing.
Thanks, Kay.
Okay.
So a couple things on the grandkids. I mean, so that's not something that I think I've heard a request for. That would be a regulation change. But on the move out incentive, so we did discuss that last year. And, you know, there's, I can't remember if I think that might have been an executive session. But we did discuss the move out incentive last year.
Right.
And ultimately, for a variety of reasons, chose not to move forward with it. I mean, again, right? It's a policy where, you know, tonight we're talking about the housing needs assessment, and one of the things in there was talking about the 534 units or whatever it was, that 535 that are the need is driven by people retiring in the units, so we don't have right. And so
Right.
We've discussed right sizing, move out. I mean, it's such a complex topic. I mean, it's so hard, and there's not really a magic bullet that kind of solves it. We've got a right sizing program that we're trying to work on.
Yeah.
You know,
That doesn't really do it, because these people want to move out of the area,
right,
but they have to afford,
right,
and the prices of our places haven't kept up.
yeah.
So, so it's just a heads up. I think people need to think about it and open up their minds and see if there's money there, so these people can move. That's just a comment.
I don't disagree with you. I mean, I agree with you, and like I said, I mean, we've talked about it at length, and if there was something that this board could pass today to make that happen,
Yeah.
I think there's probably support for that. But
Can I ask a follow-up question? Is it are you hearing from people that it's the cost of moving, like the logistics and actually physically moving, or is it that they don't have the money to buy in another
They don't
market?
have the money to buy a place. One guy I talked to, he wants to move to Newcastle. He can't afford it. Another gal wanted to move to Glenwood, the condos in Glenwood.
yeah.
And another gal, they want to move to where their family is, and that was Denver. And she goes, well, I can't afford to buy a condo in Denver. So I just am coming before the board so people can, you know, think about it and how this can happen, you know, down the road, because we need housing for the working people. And there's lots of housing, I feel, that would be available if we could get seniors moving on. But it has to, they're going to have to pay them.
I believe the attorney, Tom Smith, has his hand
Oh,
raised.
I can't see that. Tom, did you have something? Thank you for letting me know. Tom, go ahead. Tom, I think you may be, we can't hear you. I don't know if your computer maybe. There we go. Gotcha, Tom. There you go.
You got me now?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. So on Kay's first question, or first comment, that, okay, your children can inherit the property, but they can't keep it if they don't meet employment and residency requirements.
Tom, Kay was asking about her grandchildren.
Well, same thing.
No, they can't.
Someone can inherit, but they can't keep it if they don't work.
Right.
No, but they can't inherit. Grandchildren
So-
are part of it.
That's reviewed by APCHA staff on a case-by-case basis when that happens.
So they can inherit it?
Well,
Grandchildren, it's not
they-
in the regulations.
APCHA can't interfere with
No, he's
the
talking about
rules
inheritance,
of-
whether you can stay or not, and you can't.
inheritance,
Yeah.
but someone can't, who gets title to a property, if they don't qualify,
Oh,
They
they
have
have
to
to
sell it.
qualify. Totally.
well, that's fine, but it has to be reviewed at the time.
Tom, really quickly, I'm looking at the regulation, and we don't have that language in our regulations.
Right.
It just says children. Would you recommend that we change that language to avoid the administrative burden?
I think this is covered in the deed restrictions.
No, it isn't.
Okay, well, this is not something that I think we
Right,
need
I just
to.
wanted to make that comment. The
Yeah.
details can be fleshed out later. On the other question, that would require a fund of money. I think this issue came before the city council and they decided not to proceed.
Yeah, Kate, to that point, we explored a lot of ideas. We had pie in the sky hopes of
Okay.
multiple figures. And basically what we got back from the governing bodies that support and established APCHA was not enough to make a big enough dent for us to feel like it was worth all the other work that had to do to happen. And I think the consensus of the board was we agree with you.
Yeah.
That we need to make sure that we're not setting a financial trap for the people who we're trying to help.
Okay.
And if you look at the numbers, even a 6-person household in Cat 5 wouldn't make the average American single-family home price right now. So this isn't just about category 1 or 2. This is about everybody, the 70% of us who live in these homes,
Right.
who can't go to an average place anywhere in America. This isn't about being able to afford Newcastle or Redstone or Telluride. This is there are people who can't sell here and afford a trailer in Grand Junction. And that's nothing against Grand Junction, but they're very different housing markets. And one of the things that we've learned is that we as an organization, as an authority, really don't have the ability to bridge the gap between the affordable housing market and where the free market has gone. A single family home in this town last year was over $13 million.
How much?
19.9.
Over 13. I stand by. So this is an issue.
I
You're
get it.
talking to
That's
the
why-
people who agree with you, and the more that people like you can come in here and say this, the more that we can think of ideas together. Maybe we can come up with an idea. As it stands right now, I think what Tom said is important. This is a matter of getting the money.
Right, I agree. So I just wanted people to open up their minds and try to think about it. And I don't have a solution. I'm just trying to be proactive in something that needs to happen down the road.
Good.
Okay, thank you for taking the time to come in. Appreciate it. Any other public comment online? If you'd like to make public comment online, please raise your hand.
And Carson.
Nope.
Really quick. Kay, before you go. Oh. Well, for anyone who's listening at home, it sounds like grandchildren are,
Well,
we can inherit it, but it's
think so. We're
reviewed
gonna
by
have
a
to look at
case
it.
by case.
let's hold off on opening that can of worms.
We need to talk about it, because that's not my
Yeah,
understanding.
I don't think that's something we should
Yeah.
talk about right now. Okay, so we will close public comment and move to the executive director comments. Matthew.
Do you want to go straight to me, or do you want to do?
Your comment.
Oh, sorry, we'll
Board
do,
comments.
we'll do board of
Whatever-
directors
whatever
comments.
you
We don't
want.
have anybody online, so we'll start with Jackie.
I have nothing.
Ted?
Great column in the paper. I think if the public hasn't seen it in the Daily News on. No, it's not. Thank you, Andorra. I should know by now. There is a great column in the Daily News on APCHA and insurance. And all residents should just look at it and maybe learn a thing or two. Good job.
Thank you. John?
Same thing, great column, thanks.
Thank you. Scott?
I was just gonna, Ted, you buried the lead that there was a big event happened today.
That's just my style. But, which one? There were a couple. I had a full day.
There was a groundbreaking at the airport.
Yeah.
Construction has started at the airport. So staging work and road work has begun out there, and Ted got to break a shovel or
Yeah,
use a
I
shovel.
had, golden shovel. I
No,
wasn't sure if
break
you were
ground
referring
with
to
a
that
shovel.
or the Woody Creek racetrack, but both were big morning.
Yeah.
Very exciting. No comments.
Okay, great. I just had a couple comments. One, I'm assuming everybody saw Peter resign from the board. So we'll be looking for a new board member. Just an ask for the electeds to see if it's possible for us to change the IGA to have the alternate just automatically move to the voting member and then have the new person be the alternate. I know there's a number of boards that are structured that way. And rather than continuing, I think Peter applied for the voting member and then he got it and then now he's gone. And so then now Jackie would have to, so I think that makes a lot more sense, is sort of to have the new person be the alternate, and then as there's a vacancy, you can move the alternate into the role, and then the new person is the alternate.
Do we know what the justification was for the kind of non-compliant structure? Like, why do we do it the way we're doing it
I
now?
think each body has a slightly different method. Like, I believe the county has an individual policy that they'd like to move up the alternate, but I don't think the city has a.
The city has gone to that as well.
Oh, they have?
Now,
Okay,
yeah.
so maybe, but
Maybe we
we'll
could talk
chat,
to the county.
we'll chat to the,
I believe the county policy is to have the alternate movement.
so we'll double check with
Yeah.
both bodies on that.
Because I know that's what they're doing. They've asked Jackie to apply, but if it can be done automatically,
Makes a
I
lot
can
of
check to
sense.
see if it's in our bylaws or if it's in like the IGA, that we can possibly do bring that back if everybody's it wants to do that.
I mean, it
Yeah.
seems like a relatively straightforward
Is that-
change, so.
It seems like a
that
common sense
Yeah.
move, too.
And then the other comment I had, just reading the minutes, that I don't really think we celebrated enough, was the compliance piece. So we had 99% compliance in our last compliance update, and I think that's something we should be shouting from the rooftops. I think that's a really, really impressive figure. And then just sort of anecdotally, one thing that I didn't learn, I learned outside of, I didn't learn from staff or in the meeting, but I did learn that there was an investigation for a former public figure, and I think that in and of itself just goes to everybody gets treated the same, and it doesn't matter who you are. If you're a public figure, the rules apply to everyone, like we were talking about. And I think that's something I was really pleased to learn that outside the community. That so good job, staff. I mean, that's sort of my comment there. So. I will move now we'll close comments and we'll move to Matthew, Director's comments.
Great. Good evening, everyone. I can't remember if it's in October or November. We are having a session on compliance, like we did last year. So Jackie will lead that. So hopefully we can use that as an opportunity to get some press for those very things that Carson was mentioning. Thank you for that. I have, this didn't make it in the packet, and I think we'll do a session led by Meg regarding HOAs. She's got a session next week on responsible government policies, what you need to know. And then she's also been talking with Molly Foley-Healy on helping HOAs. One of the things Molly suggested would be APCHA introducing a program to help HOAs update some of their documents and their policies. And then also we talked over the years of maybe setting aside some money for a set number of predetermined 30-minute sessions with Molly. So we'll build that out more for the board to actually look at, because I think it's worth you guys actually examining it. And we didn't get that back from Molly in time for this meeting, but Meg did write a couple memos, so thank you to Meg. But we'll get some time on an upcoming meeting to delve in that a little bit deeper. And then I also wanted to, excuse me, let me just find my notes. I also wanted to say thank you to Peter for his hard work. And also more on Meg's work with HOAs. She's got a newsletter going out in the next week or so. And also on Meg's topics, Meg's developing a outreach program, which is currently phase 1, which is about encouraging people to get on the new deed restriction. And it's kind of, as we've discussed, it's a complicated message to get across, but we've got a new landing page and a how to update your deed restriction on the website. And there'll be a blurb in the next city newsletter about it. And once she's got this session under we're going to move to phase 2, which is to increase visibility of that. And then, as I said last week, we might even have to go to individual calls, but she's working very hard on making sure people are aware of that.
Is there any, do we have any sort of metric that we're targeting for that? I feel like we did that as kind of an incentive, and I feel like if we're not getting adoption of that, we should address that sooner than later so that we can, hopefully take up more. Is there?
I know, Cindy, you did a couple this week.
I recorded 4 this week. What the hang-up is that some of the people who've done capital improvements have not ever brought theirs in. So if they want to really get credit for that, they have to have it before we go on to the deed restrictions. So I've talked to probably 4 or 5 others that they have that, and they're trying to get that ready into Pam so that she can add that, so then they can go under the new deed restriction that will include the capital improvements that they've already done.
That sounds like a Housing Matters column.
Yeah.
That we could put together and then send that out.
Yeah, it's it's a good deal, but it's kind of hard to explain. It's hard to explain how it. But we're going to publicize it, and we'll try and keep statistics to get back to the board and how many new ones we've got.
Okay.
What was it? Okay, and then we're going to redo the flyer for the ice cream social and get that publicized. And I think I sent that to everybody on their Outlook calendar, but I'll double check on that. And we're heavily advertising that, including an email blast to our 7,000 newsletter subscribers.
Do we get, when we do that, is there any tracking of emails? Do we know what the read rate is on that?
I don't think Meg's here, but it's much higher than comparable newsletters.
Good.
We do have a read letter, and I can get back to you. We'll have Meg. We'll have Meg. Meg is also coming out to do the communications update later in the year, so that'll be something for her. But it's pretty high.
Good.
And also, we'll be working, following up on our meeting last month with fire mitigation. So thanks to Carson for his great column. Emily's meeting with Andy again next week to talk about fire mitigation, and meeting with Pitkin County Emergency Manager to discuss fire mitigation and how we can help with that as well. In light of us being a board member light right now, we definitely are gonna make sure we do that offsite you guys requested, but I think we're gonna wait until we are up to full speed, and then we'll set a date, and then we'll work on that. I thanked Peter for his contribution, so thank you very much for that. With the next board meeting, there will be a hearing, so stand by for that. I mentioned Aspen Country Inn has 2 vacancies. That's a big improvement over last year, thanks to a lot of extensive outreach. I did want to mention one thing. You may hear about cases at, actually, Meg just wrote, the newspaper open rate is around 40%, which is very high by newsletter standards.
That's the open rate.
Yeah. We have a number of tenant lease disputes at Truscott which don't go to the board. They're kind of landlord-tenant issues. But if you do hear about them, people want to say they're being treated unfairly by us, we have procedures, and that's usually a legal thing. But I just wanted to let you know that there are several ongoing cases at Truscott with that. We've made an executive decision on the website. The holdup was the app, which has been very irritating with permissions and getting that done. So we're going to move ahead without the app. That's been the only thing that's been holding it up for the past couple months. And rather than letting, the perfect get in the way of the good, we're going to launch the website as soon as we can and work on the app later. It's been driving Meg crazy, but we're going to just pause on that and keep working on it. And we are working, again, this is a little bit outside the board's purview, but the APCHA property management staff are working very hard on transition to a new property management software system, which will be beneficial to the clients, and I think give a much better experience for the rental clients, but it's a heavy lift right now to get all that data uploaded, but that's one of the main things the property managers are working on right now. I believe that's it, if you have any questions.
Thanks, Matthew. Okay, Cindy, available rental sale units?
Again, we're pretty much adding at least 1 or 2 sales a week. So please make sure you sign up for notifications. Our rentals, we are pretty full, but again, if something comes up, we do advertise on our website. So again, please sign up for notifications on the website so that you'll get that. And then if you get a notification with regards to a rental, read about the income level on it, because we will always state what the maximum income level is and what is required. And then if you are interested, you do have to submit an interest for that unit. And then we have a deadline date for that now. We no longer do it by the longest work history. So there's a certain point in time that you have to sign up for that. And then what we will do is we will hold a random lottery for for people who have signed up on that. And that is one of the things that we have done for Marolt as well. We opened up, we have a certain amount of units that's opened up to the public. We tell people to sign up by a certain time for that, and then we hold the lottery. That opened the first part of July. That has already closed, but the lottery is probably going to be held in about a week. And so that's kind of how we do the open units at Marolt right now. And that's it.
Great, thank you, Cindy. Okay, next item is the consent calendar. We have one item. It's the minutes of the June 17th, 2026 regular meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Seconded.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any amendments, changes to the minutes? Hearing none, it's a roll call vote.
Scott,
Yes.
Carson,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
and Ted.
Yes.
And Jackie.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. See, I knew I was gonna miss somebody. Thank you. Yes, and Jackie.
Four votes.
All right.
Personnel.
Okay, so we will move to housing needs
it all right.
assessment update. And we've got Liz here.
Can you upgrade me so I can share my screen? Great, thank you. Okay. So I know I've presented to all of you here before, but for the record, I'm Liz Axberg, Housing Policy Analyst for the City of Aspen, and I've been on a road show with the Housing Needs Assessment, and excited to share some data with you all today, even though a few of you have already seen this, but, oh, can you let me share my screen? Try that again.
Working?
It's working.
Okay.
Cool. Okay. Here we go. So yeah, so today I'm here to just present some data from the housing needs assessment that we're wrapping up right now. I coordinated this work on behalf of the region. It was paid for by Aspen, Pitkin County, Snowmass Village, but included a much larger region than that in the study. And so right now I've just been bringing it to all the jurisdictions. Pitkin County and Aspen already received this, so you're going to get a repeat of the same presentation. But staff just thought it would be a good information to bring to the APCHA board as well. And there's some really interesting trends and data in here that I'm excited to share with you all as well. And you also, Pitkin County and Aspen received the presentation from our consultant at APS. So you'll see that I'm not quite as on it as her, but also we worked really closely on the work. And again, I think there's some really interesting things in here. And I'm happy if there's any questions that come up that I don't have the answer to, I'll write it down and I'll send it to EPS and we'll get an answer back. And just a quick note on EPS too, they're the same exact team that completed this work is doing APCHA's affordability study, which we're in the process of restarting right now since we are wrapping up the housing needs assessment work. So yeah, I'm happy to take questions as we work through the slides, anything clarifying or big picture, just to help as we interpret it. But of course, we'll have time at the end for questions as well. So first off, why did we do the study? And the answer is because the state mandated it. So as a requirement of Senate Bill 24-174, all local governments had to complete housing needs assessments. In addition, they outlined the guidelines for these as well. So this document really does follow the state's guidelines for the housing needs assessment that they outline. The data to use, what to look at, how to calculate, what is a housing need. And along with that, the main reason why Pitkin County, Aspen, and Snowmass were the funding members, the leading members, is because we use this assessment to support a rural resort petition for Proposition 123, just to allow us to be able to access more of those dollars and have some flexibility around the AMI for those dollars as well. And we just thought it would be a missed opportunity if we didn't look at the entire region, and especially the entire commuter shed from Aspen through Garfield County to Parachute, which is the span of the region. And then also, there's some really interesting numbers. Like, it's more than checking a box. I really hope that you all find it interesting, and I think it's a great tool for all local governments participating to use as we look at our housing need and our housing goals as well and where it's being generated. One thing before I get into it too, just good to make up front, is this is not a legally binding commitment for any of the governments who are involved in terms of here's the amount of units you need to build. I really see this as informational and helping us understand the magnitude of the housing need that that is estimated to come, where is it being generated, and what are the drivers of housing need as well. And so it's really informational in that sense. So here's who all participated from Pitkin County, Aspen, all the way through Garfield County, Parachute. And I think after this presentation, Thursday we have Glenwood Springs and Parachute, and then we have Basalt at the end of the month. So we've been bringing it to everyone, and It's been great. I had Garfield County on Monday. So we broke the study into 2 phases because we needed to expedite the portion that was for Proposition 123. So the left is phase 1, the right is phase 2, which was the remaining requirements for the Senate legislation to make it a compliant housing needs assessment. We're of course going to consolidate it into one document before we make it available to the public or submit it to the state as well, just because it's a little confusing with 2 documents. And so it really, you can see all the different bullets of what's included and that we're going to go through today as well. And it's a lot of the normal things you'll see in a housing needs assessment, but again, we followed the state guidance really to a T. So I'm going to start today just looking at some data trends. Trends have been shifting. This is one of the more interesting things that we're seeing out of this assessment is the growth projected in Garfield County and through the Colorado River Valley. Really seen strongly, especially with families, with people under 18 years old. We're seeing growth move into Garfield County, and it's remaining a lot more stable for Pitkin County as well. And a lot of the trends we're going to look at today really reinforce the message of why that's happening. And we all know it, but it's nice to have data that backs it as well. And we're also seeing that the population is aging in both counties as well. This is in line with state trends, national trends, but it's a little bit more pronounced in Pitkin County, which we'll look at too. And as I said, we're seeing steadily as you move down the Colorado River Valley, households get larger and tend to have more kids as well compared to Pitkin County. So again, aging populations are seen across it, more pronounced in Pitkin County. You can see here with Pitkin County, with 22% of the population aged under 25, 22% over 65. For Garfield County, it's 33% for under 25, 14% for 65. So you can see the difference there. And same for family households. We're just seeing a higher proportion of family households as defined by the census in Garfield County compared to Pitkin County as well. And the report in your packet, there's a really great chart that shows this as well. It's like a ladder, and it shows Aspen in the average age and size of households and correlates as you go from one town to another. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's some really great charts in there. So then economic trends. So Garfield County's bigger, so it's expected that they would have more jobs. So Garfield County has about 1.5 times more jobs than Pitkin County, actually. But Pitkin County still has been and has continued to be the really strong economic driver for the region, hence why we have so many people commuting up to Aspen and Pitkin County as well. But we are starting to see the wage gap between Garfield County and Pitkin County start to get closer and closer together, which we'll look at in the next slide too, which could have impacts on if you're willing to make that commute or not. We're also seeing in both counties that the occupations with the most amount of jobs all make below the area median income, or which we'll look at the next slide as well. Lastly, something we all know, we have a lot of commuters in Pitkin County. About 62% of Pitkin County's workers commute from outside the county right now. It's much lower. I think it's like Garfield County, but they're a lot bigger. They still have 25% of their workforce who commutes in county over 50 miles, though. So a lot of people in Garfield County make large commutes as well. But that could be parachute to Carbondale. So more jobs in Garfield County, as we just talked about, and then you can see Pitkin County jobs that have slightly higher wages. So we're looking at the median wage in 2024 for Pitkin County versus Garfield County. It's been getting closer, so that 54 versus 52. And so if that continues to get closer, it might make that long commute a little bit less of an incentive. And along with this, as I talked about on the last slide as well, so the top 3 occupations in Pitkin County, they make up over a third of our jobs. They all earn below the median wage, which is under $50,000. And it's just important in helping us understand the majority of our workers and what they can afford for housing as well, which is not housing in Pitkin County. Along with this, Garfield County has 2 times more housing units than Pitkin County. Again, expected. They're a much larger region. What's interesting about that is the 2 times more housing units, 1.5 times more jobs, giving data to show how many of Pitkin County's workers are housed in Garfield County. So something we know, but it's always good to have data that shows this. Vacancy rates support this as well. So Pitkin County unit vacancy rates around 40%. That's about 8% for Garfield County and resembles a more traditional housing market. We also know APCHA and our local governments have been doing work in this area for a very long time. There are 4,500 affordable housing units in this region, Pitkin County and Garfield, and that's affordable with a capital A, so they all have some kind of deed restriction or mechanism. So in about 90% of those are in Pitkin County, 65% in Aspen city limits. Lastly, home prices are very high, and we're going to talk a bit more about affordability later, but this is something we all know, and we're watching affordability become more and more of an issue as we go through the Colorado River Valley as time has gone on as well. So housing affordability, just comparing home prices to household incomes now, just to show how out of reach home ownership really is becoming in this region. So a two-person household in Pitkin County earning 100% AMI, which is around $100,000, they can afford around $2,500 in monthly housing costs. That's just using the 30% metric. And so to be able to afford a medium-priced home in Down Valley communities, you have to earn twice that right now. In Down Valley, we are talking like Glenwood, Newcastle at this point. So even if you're making 300% AMI, so 3 times as much, around $300,000, you can't afford anything in the Mid-Valley at this point, or at least a very small proportion. 0 sales in 2024 were affordable to anyone making under 120% AMI in Pitkin County in 2024. And even in the Mid-Valley, about 2% were affordable to those in the 80 to 150% AMI category for that year as well. And we're going to talk a bit more about it. Rental data, it's not too great of information on this slide just because of how tricky rental data is in our region. But typically when people can't afford to buy a home, they're going to rent. And so we have some data from CHAFA because they only take rental data from the Glenwood Springs metro area. We also looked at some data from Zillow. CHAFA's data, I think, really misrepresents what rental rates really are like in Glenwood Springs at this point. But what I think is more important here is showing the 57% increase from 2022 to 2025 in rental rates. And if anyone spends any time on Roaring Fork rentals and roommates, you know you're finding an ADU for $2,500 in someone's basement. It's just really difficult. So I'm really hoping we have to renew this housing needs assessment every 6 years, and I'm hoping we can do more of a robust survey to get more accurate rental data and understand what's going on. But in Zillow, it showed Garfield County's typical rent was around $2,700 in 2025, still going up. And one thing we talk about a lot too is how we have a lot of households who would typically be in the ownership market, but they're renting because of the lack of affordable home prices. And it puts a lot of pressure on the rental market, which pushes lower income earners farther away or unable to compete with them in the rental market.
Just really quickly on that point, are you saying that because they have more disposable income, they're less pressed out of the rental market? Or what? How do you mean that? How do they put pressure on?
Yeah, because usually they'd be buying a home in a traditional housing market. So we have a lot more people with more income in our rental market.
So increasing
they can
demand
outcompete lower income earners for
and
rentals.
limiting supply.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so now that we've talked a bit about where the market is, the next step is looking at what the market costs and what people can actually afford. And I did put this in your packet too in case it's small, but hopefully you can see it. And so on this chart though, you can see the dark blue is what people in that Pitkin County AMI can afford, and the light blue is for Garfield County AMI. And the different lines are the median sales prices in the different regions across our valley, going from the Colorado River Valley. And then the one way up at the top is where we're at, the upper valley median sales price. And so you can see where that sales price is at and then what people can actually afford. So a two-person household making 100% AMI, again, around $2,500 they can afford a month. So if you make 3 times this, you're still priced out of as far as Carbondale. And if you make 2 times this, you're still priced out as far as Glenwood and Newcastle, as you can see from this. And from this chart, even if you're making 400% AMI, you're not going to be able to buy anything in the Upper Valley. And so some more data for you on affordability as well. So this is looking at by year, the sales that occurred, and then what income levels those sales were affordable to. So the really dark red bar, that's greater than 400% AMI that it was affordable to. So I believe in the Upper Valley, 80% of sales in 2024 were only affordable to households earning 4 times the median income. In 2024, not a single sale affordable to those earning below 120% AMI. And as you can see, there's shrinking bars at the bottom as the years have gone on, showing that that the market for people even under 300% AMI has just becoming non-existent in the Upper Valley. Looking at the Mid-Valley, Basalt and Carbondale, you can see about half of sales in 2024 were only affordable still to people at 400% AMI as far as Carbondale. And the bars there are continuing to shrink as well for those earning less than 200% AMI. And this really just shows also, when you look at the average sales prices, why people are moving farther west and down the Colorado River Valley. Chasing affordability, but at this point it's becoming not even affordability, it's chasing what's less expensive, because even in Newcastle, as we heard today, it's been pricing out a lot of households. So after a lot of sad affordability data, we'll get into the housing needs, which is the final piece of phase 1. And this is looking at actually calculating the projected housing needs. So here's how we calculated it. We broke it up into 2 categories. We have the catch-up, and then we have the keep-up. So what's currently exists that we're not addressing, and what's projected over the next 10 years. So the different variables that go in for existing includes eliminating overcrowding and temporary housing solutions. We looked at reducing long-distance commuting, so taking a chunk of our commuters and putting them into the housing need, and then unfilled jobs as well. Their assumption that it's unfilled because they can't find somewhere to live. And then for the projected housing need, we're looking at the 10-year employment growth, and we're also looking at units to accommodate employees filling jobs vacated by retirees, which y'all know. So the idea, someone retires, the job is now available, but they need somewhere to live to be able to take that job. So we're going to calculate all of those different variables, and then we look at job growth within each jurisdiction, and we allocate the housing need proportionally to job growth by jurisdiction. And then after that, we'll net out all the pipeline developments. So ultimately, we'll take into account lumberyard. And so as you all saw, these numbers are large. And we just like to preface it, communities typically do not address 100% of these needs, nor are they expected to as well. It's really informational, to understanding, again, where the magnitude of the need is and where it's coming from, what are the drivers of it. And so go into it here. So based on the 5 factors we just discussed, Pitkin County, Garfield County combined 10-year housing need is 7,686 units. Again, it's not necessarily new construction. We're just trying to understand the magnitude of the housing need. And in Pitkin County, though, it's a total of 2,853 units needed. About 59% of our need is catch-up, and 41% is keep-up, which is opposite of Garfield County's, where Garfield County's housing need is 4,800, and their catch-up versus keep-up is opposite of ours, and it's because of the anticipated growth in Garfield County, which is really interesting to look at. And so, not done yet. So we're going to allocate this housing need by jobs. So we looked at job growth for each of these, allocated it by community, and that looks at, so the county's need of 2,800 units, 1,493 are in Aspen, 493 in Pitkin County, the remaining units allocated to Snowmass and Basalt. And below you can see the same information in Garfield County. I think it's really interesting because it gives you an idea of where they're projecting growth across Garfield County as well, where you can see the most units anticipated for a need in Glenwood Springs, and also a lot of growth projected in Rifle as well. So it's really interesting to look at the job growth across the different parts of the region. Next up is we account for projects in the development pipeline. And so that reduces Aspen's count to 1,239 and Pitkin County's still at 493 for that. And it's just an important piece because we know that we have these projects online that are going to meet the housing needs, so we're take that into account as well. So this is the housing need, 2,538, taking into account everything, taking into account lumberyard, taking into account anything that's been entitled approved. Then we take the housing need and we look at where is the most need by AMI. And a lot of our need is concentrated in 50 to 120% AMI. That's around APCHA categories 2 and 3. But what I think is really important still is that we have still a great need above 205% AMI as well. It's still fairly significant relative to the others. And the reason why we even stop at 205% AMI is because that's all the census goes up to. And so we aren't really able to break it up by those higher income categories, hoping that can change. And we also split it up by ownership and rental, but that's just based on they say that around 120% and up serves ownership, and below that's rental. So now I'm going to move into phase 2 after we just went through a lot of data. This is really the qualitative part of the housing needs assessment. And so the first part we look at is housing problems and challenges. So this is what else is going on besides this housing need number. And the state has us look at these different pieces. So again, overcrowding, temporary housing, homelessness shows up again. The idea here is maybe these have different solutions or ways to target it than just housing units. So in Pitkin County, there's around 247 households that fall into this category. This data, again, really tricky. We're a tricky area to get really high quality data for, but we did work with Pitkin County's homelessness consultants a bit on getting those numbers too. And then we also looked at cost burden. So Pitkin County, around 38% of households are cost burden, 47% in Garfield County. Which, one thing I think is just interesting is how much, because we have so many people in affordable housing, and it's in our data, and we can't really separate it out. And I wonder how that impacts these numbers, or if there's just a lot more lower income earners in Garfield County who are cost burden as they've been pushed out too. Can
you really quickly define what cost burden means in the context of this study?
Yes, paying more than 30% of their income for housing. Mm-hmm.
And really quickly, never mind, I'll wait on that. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. Great, and then we also look at displacement risk. And this is an additional requirement outlined by the state for the housing needs assessment. They had us look at 11 different factors that may increase someone's housing instability or risk of displacement. And so we look at all 11 of these in the study. And the idea here is these are all people who are just more likely to be pushed out of the region earlier because of housing pressures. And I think it's important because it can inform the different types of programs, policies that we want to implement as well, if we know who is being more disproportionately impacted by housing. So I'll talk about these 5 ones, but all 11 are in the housing needs assessment here. So we look at people who are low income, who is cost burden. About 91% of our low income renters in Aspen are cost burden. We also look at older housing stock. So the idea there, as housing stock ages, it becomes more expensive to maintain, which could make it an unaffordable unit. We look at single parent households. This one's interesting because in Pitkin County and Aspen, it went down. The estimate went down from 2019 to 2024. So it's some of this data, it's like how many people have already been displaced as the years have gone on. We look at aging residents. Are there places for our aging residents to go to? Or do they have services that they need? And then disability, do we have enough ADA units for people as well? And then development challenges. So this all goes, one piece of the Senate legislation is also we have to create this housing action plan, which is really the piece where you look at your housing need and then you look at things like development challenges and resources and feasibility and actually create housing goals. Because we all know we have a lot of challenges to development. Land scarcity, there's only so much land that's developable. Development costs, it's really expensive. We're up against non-local demand for housing here as well, and we're seeing it spread down valley. And then water access, and that just gets to infrastructure and having infrastructure for new housing units as well. All right, and now this is the last component, just because I know I've been talking for a while. So this gets into policy programs and recommendations.
Tom raised his hand. I don't know if he has a specific.
Oh.
Tom, did you want to make a comment?
That,
No? Okay.
are you calling on me?
Yes. Did you want to make
Oh,
a comment?
I can't hear you very well there, but I had a question on the cost burden low-income renters.
Mm-hmm.
Is that 83 and 91%, that includes renters that are in deed restricted affordable housing?
I believe it does. We can't separate it out.
Does that also include owners?
This is all renters.
So people, renters in affordable housing, our affordable housing, are cross-burdened. The program doesn't keep people from being cost-burdened.
Possibly. This isn't just, there's probably also people in free market in this as well, and renting free market in Pitkin County. Okay, oops, I went too far. Yeah, happy to follow up on that too, Tom. So this just gets into policy programs, recommendations, what are our solutions? And these are the pieces that tee up this housing action plan. And so none of this is binding or prescriptive. It was just all the different staff from the participating governments getting together and saying, where are there areas for solutions? And it doesn't go into too much detail. First, it's just here's everything we do. Again, this region's been doing a lot for a long time. Look at APCHA and how large we are. It's pretty incredible. So we took inventory of the different programs, policies we have in place. And then we have two sets of strategies. So we have regional. So this includes Pitkin County and Garfield County. And we really just focused on how can we collaborate more, partnership building. We talked about West Mountain Regional Housing Coalition a bit. And we found areas of overlap that both counties are struggling with affordable housing as well. And then we also had staff from Snowmass, Basalt, Pitkin County, Aspen get together and also talk through areas for solutions. And so we outlined them in 6 different categories. And again, it's pretty high level because we're really going to be setting goals and intentions is going to be the housing action plan. And we're just finding areas for overlap, more collaboration. What do we all care about? Mobile homes were talked about, replacing expiring deed restrictions, where there are code opportunities, more partnerships, just anything in that realm. So that's all I had on the housing needs assessment. I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions for Liz?
It's hard to know where to start. Yeah. I mean, we've seen this. Some of we've even every time you present, you pick up something new. I think we could spend an hour on each slide and just break down what it is. So it's almost not. It's amazing.
I know.
And I don't know what, as a board, apart from just raising awareness of the situation, and it puts it all into pretty clear. I didn't actually have any comments except to say thank you. Your presentation's pretty well honed, and you're good at it.
Thank you. No, I'm sorry this is the second time you had to.
Yeah.
I guess for me, I'm kind of surprised, like the rental thing, and I know that it encompasses free market as well as potentially the deed restricted rental, but that it makes me wonder when predominantly the needs are coming up as category 2 and 3, and we have previously talked about sometimes it's hard to fill some of those lower incomes. So it kind of seems like that was kind of surprising to me, to be honest. And and a little bit concerning, since we're trying to help keep people so they don't get bumped out as they earn more income. We're trying to give, try to protect in that sense, but now it suggests that maybe that will have some blowback.
The units we're having a hard time filling are more in the 50% AMI and below, which is Cat 1.
Is Cat 1?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. So that makes me feel a little better.
Yeah.
Right?
Really
'Cause that's
quickly,
concerning.
didn't we identify that the 3 top occupations in our county fit into that income categorization?
What we see a lot though, and it doesn't show up in this, is a lot of people in those making that amount of money work multiple jobs.
1.3?
Yeah. And so a lot of the time then they get priced out of those units. And APCHA could probably speak to more what they see when trying to qualify people as well.
And the report did, the report said that the sub 50 AMI need may be overstated because, we know those are hard.
And some of them are already being housed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I've got to say, every time I see it, the trend lines are still very concerning. And the bottom line, I think, is affordability is getting harder and harder, or farther and farther out of reach.
When I look at this, I see an economics 101 problem. It's supply and demand, and and it's not just affordable demand. If we were talking, the average Aspen single family home was 19.9, the median was like 15.5. Right. We could increase the AMI to 1,000%, and it's still not.
10,000.
Right. It's like it's still not. It's still
Not
not
gonna be on the
enough.
charts.
So when I look at this, I see not just a need for affordable housing, but I see a need for more housing. And up and all the way from Aspen, all the way down. We just need, we need more housing, as we've seen with rising prices in basalt, Carbondale. 300-400% AMI still can't afford it in basalt and Carbondale. If you're 300-400% in Aspen, goodbye. Right? It's like you got to leave because there's nothing for you. So when I look at this, I see a need to examine zoning and, perhaps, just more housing.
Deed restricted housing.
What?
Deed restricted housing.
I see just more housing, period.
Yeah.
Right. So both deed restricted and free market. I think there is a need for more of both because and the reason I say that is because 2,500 units in Pitkin County. Even if we had an unlimited budget, there's no way you could fill that, right? It just that there's not enough land to do that.
I would point to the share of lower income people is shrinking and the share of the top earners is growing.
Mm-hmm.
And in that context, supplying housing,
Yes.
just broadly, will attract the 47% of this chart, which make more than 400% AMI, and it will, basic economics, price out the other 53% who won't be able to afford that. And so I think the point that was maybe being made here is that housing, yes, and for our mission, making sure that it's deed restricted and affordable.
Correct. Well, yes, and yes, for this board, yes, obviously. Yeah, definitely, we need, I think what I'm saying is we need both.
Yeah.
Right.
Here. This is alarm bells.
Yeah.
This is aging population decline, households growing down valley. Another way to say that is households shrink as they get closer to us. That, just in demographics, that's a collapse. That's a collapsing community. And if you talk about economics, importing 62% of our labor, we're not also discussing, and Ted, maybe you have a better number for this, the hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue that we're exporting out of the county every year with this system. So it's like, there is such a high magnitude of need here that it's almost like I'm in shock that like we knew it, and it's worse than we knew.
Well, here's a little snapshot. When I moved up to the back of Little Annie Basin back in the 80s, it was because the cost of rent in town was so high, right? And in the ensuing years, all the people that lived in cabins up there used to be community. There were probably 20, 25 people living up there year round, you know, making it work. And it's slowly been gentrified to the point where a 1,000 square foot cabin on the backside sold for $18 million a couple weeks ago. I think that's a snapshot of our whole Upper Valley, really. And what's happened is second homeowners have moved in, and the people who lived here have been forced to find other accommodations, and it's usually a long way away.
Yeah, I mean, nothing. There's nothing I'm going to say that. I mean, within the city, right? I mean, we've seen a tremendous number of demolitions, and we've seen that's why we have the permit system, and right, we're losing housing. I mean, it's their housing units are being replaced by second homes that are occupied 6 weeks out of the year, and I think that's what this study is telling us, is, you know, and so, you know, I mean, not like I look at it, I mean, if there's ways to incentivize aging properties, I can think of one that I lived in that's 10 units that's was built in 1959 that's eventually going to be redeveloped. I mean, if there's a way to incentivize that to be made into some sort of maybe it is a deed restriction with an RO designation where you're maybe not limiting the price, but you are limiting who lives there, and that it is a resident that actually, if there's ways to do that alongside, you know, kind of the regular deed restricted model, I mean, I think that's what we're seeing.
I think that's smart. I also really quickly want to stop the pity party and mention that we are addressing this already, in part with extending and expanding the percentage of AMI that renters are allowed to make within this ecosystem. And the more that we can create internal bridges that allow people to move up the ladder, the closer we can get to the free market. But the reality is, we
Never
can't
gonna get there.
We can't bridge to the free market anymore.
No,
it's not going to happen.
Yeah. And I do, just sort of last comment I'll make is, I mean, the study did mention also the need to explore right-sizing options, and you know, we've kind of been down that road. We've done the pilot, and I think we've even sort of said we're good for now. I think that may be something we need to revisit because it's pretty clear that.
I think we need to revisit a lot of stuff. Yeah. I think we need to figure out, because there was also comment about aging properties and people, you know, we had public comment also about people retiring in these units. Like, we got to start really digging in and coming up with creative ideas on all fronts, because we can't just build our way out of this. And we have to figure out how to get workforce in here and how to get younger workforce who are going to fill the majority of these jobs. Because it also showed our population aging. Those aren't necessarily going to want to be or doing the jobs that are the high demand jobs that are lower income. So maybe more rental properties are necessary more than ownership, and some to fill some of that particular demographic. But I think it's all the things we know. But now it's very much like, okay, we gotta find the money, we gotta figure out some solutions.
And then we got some new information, like the ski company presentation a couple weeks ago, where they informed us something that we should have recognized already, is that a lot of their employees are aging out, and as they age out, they're going to be selling. A lot of them do own their own homes, or a pretty good percentage, but as they age out, they're not going to be selling to more ski company employees. They're going to be selling to the highest bidder on the free market. And so they're going to be losing a lot of housing there as well, and this is a crisis.
Their stat, and I can't recall exactly, was that something around 30% of their employees were expected to retire in the next 10 years.
I think it was.
And many of them in place for the same reasons that Kay mentioned, which is there's no option to go anywhere else.
Right.
And so that comes back to what you're saying. It's like if it's all locked up at that demographic because there are no options, then that's where I think there's probably some room to loosen that somehow, like open that up again, because and I think we see it where we all live. It's like, do you have neighbors? And it's like, well, where are they? What are the choices? They don't have any. And if they don't have any, then they don't move, and then the whole system kind of freezes up. And and you can try to keep, we can keep building. I think we're identifying that we have an issue. We're working at it.
Yeah.
We're never going to build 7,000 units. I don't even think that's the goal. But I think this is incredibly informative, and it's not on us to like solve the fact that we have large economic issues in the country right now that are making everything unaffordable. That's not,
Right.
I mean, we have that here acutely, but it's everywhere, and we just need to keep working with the landscape as it changes.
Tools we
But
have.
I think it's just helpful to have this info to see, like, these are points where we need to, can we focus on the right sizing, or can we focus on the lower categories? There's no silver bullet, obviously.
Yeah, I just want to say, I think this is such a great conversation because it's so easy to look at the 2,800 units and say, whoa, that's so much. But what's more important is looking at the inputs like the retirees, and then that helps inform more of the solutions needed.
Systems.
Do we have enough senior services for these types of inputs and those types? And so that's just, I know it's a big daunting number and a lot of people, but these are the right conversations, is how can we take the data that's in here to help inform the work that APCHA is doing even, yeah.
There's a bit of a risk there in circular logic because we shouldn't have more kids and families in this town because daycare is so unaffordable, right? And if you do correlation or causation errors in that calculation, you can end up supporting the problem that exists because of other inputs like affordability. I think you're right. My question for you is, you've discussed some things about code and zoning. That's been mentioned a couple times here. I had a really interesting conversation with a European friend last year about why American housing doesn't work, and he seemed to think it had a lot to do with policy decisions about zoning. And I'm wondering if that conversation has come up with you and what recommendations we might be able to support or research or task staff with researching so that we can help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'll say so that's going to probably come up more in Housing Action Plan.
Right.
What we bring up more in this one is very vague. More, though, what we talked about was how we can align across the valley on code, because honestly, like Aspen has really progressive land use code, and that's part of why we have so much affordable housing. Our mitigation requirements have created a lot of affordable housing. And so I think that will be a piece we get into more with the Housing Action Plan. That's due January 2028 and will require adoption by local governments as well. And that's where they have the opportunity, if they want to, identify areas for land use code development.
Then maybe I'll pivot to question the board. At the
I
county level?
I think your friend is correct.
Gotcha. At the county level or at the city level, is there any conversation about caretakers units, ADUs? I know that for a long time we've had really lofty requirements for new builds, and that we probably have a lot of vacant caretaker units and ADUs within the city limits. Is there any conversation about that?
There has been, and as I recall, a lot of the ADU units had no real requirements attached to them at the time.
That's right.
And so that over this period of time, they've been converted into wine rooms and
Golf driving ranges.
stuff like that, and nobody's living in them. And as far as code changes, we are actively talking about making multifamily a legislative decision instead of being brought to council for those approvals. That would speed up the process for multifamily.
Very cool.
I'm not sure where we are in that process right now, but it's being looked at.
Very cool.
Yeah, I think that's
It's the right direction.
the right direction.
Logical step.
Yeah.
I believe Tom Smith also has a question for you.
Go ahead, Tom. We're gonna.
Quick comment, when you talk about additional free market development and zoning changes, it might be interesting to look at what sales at the lower end of the free market look like. Because my guess is that it's gonna look a lot like what John described, which is, if it's free market, it's multi-millions, no matter what. Just a thought.
There's that.
Okay, well, thank you, Liz. I do want to keep us on schedule here. While I have you, one quick question that sort of leads into our next discussion on the affordability study.
Yeah.
Do we have a date on that?
Definitely. So that I also, when I was talking at the beginning and I brought that up, I was like, oh, this is actually a great time to update you all. So we had pivoted the team's work to focus on the housing needs assessment just because of the time requirements, but they are actively right now restarting the affordability study work. And these two projects really, they work off each other really well too. And so I think we're in a good spot to look at APCHA and affordability. So we just had a meeting with their team, and we are just going to do a change order because of how long it's been since we initially were approved the affordability study.
When did we approve that?
That was 2 years ago
Yeah.
now, yeah. And I know some of you are new to the board since then, but APCHA approved an affordability study about 2 years ago, and we're really looking at our APCHA's categories, right? Like the spread of them, looking at the price of Category 4 homes, and given Category 4 incomes that we have laid out, can they afford the price of those? Can they afford the rent of those? Do we have
And
a
the
mismatch?
maintenance.
Yeah, maintenance, and looking at those. And HOAs as well. Yeah, we're looking at HOAs.
And insurance.
Yeah, and yeah, so we're also looking at all these things.
Tree removal.
And given the number of Category 4 income earners in our community, is that aligned with the number we have for units? So yeah, so we're relaunching that work. We can probably give an update once we have an updated scope of work. And
Ballpark timing?
yeah, I'm hoping it should take under a year to complete it. Yeah, and we have it scoped to do an update to the APCHA board midway through the project as well, because we anticipate this being the type of project where it's like, here's a lot of data, and then here's these 20 other questions that we should look at after you see the data. So we're actively restarting that work right now and are prioritizing it. So
Question, so when you're looking at those numbers, like the affordability, I assume you're looking at the same 30% factor that we were using in this to calculate these percentages of housing people spending too much money.
yeah, I know that's always such a tricky one because it's like it's 30%, right? I think we'll do 30%, but try to add in some nuance with that as well. Maybe look at a spectrum, or like here's like the spectrum of percent of gross income people spend. And I'm also hoping, because a lot of that time it's what's all goes into those housing expenses too for that 30%. So I'm hoping we can work that into the analysis of, because a lot of the time we aren't taking in maintenance, HOA, and insurance into those as well. So yeah, 30% tends to be the metric, but hopefully we can add in some more information to help us see more than that too. Yeah.
Thanks, Liz.
Yeah. Thank you all.
Thanks.
Okay, so we've got a little over an hour here for the work plan update and discussion.
So, Emily's online, so she might chirp in, but we'll take this to begin with. So under the IGA, the board is responsible for adopting an annual work plan. I've included last year's for reference. We'd like to push forward to next year a couple, and actually let me back up. This is your work plan, so this is, we have some suggestions in there. We tried to capture board discussions over the past year. We have some suggestions in the packet going forward, but the purpose of this meeting is to discuss those options. If there's anything we missed, if there's anything you don't like, so we can have that discussion. We've used for the past couple of years the buckets from the strategic plan: compliance, quality, community, and leadership. So we've tried to put everything in there rather than inventing new topics and goals. So we're using the goals from the strategic plan. So of the ones we'd like to move forward next year, which we weren't able to complete this year, we have HOA capital reserve policy and programs. Emily's done a lot of work on that, which has not been put forward to the board due to concerns of pending litigation with the city, with a couple HOAs. So we were asked to pause on those. So we've done quite a bit of work on that, but that has not gone through to you guys. The affordability study is on there. We'd like to move that forward. Again, Liz just updated you on that. The website also, as I mentioned in my remarks, that'll get launched very soon. We had an irritating issue with the app. And the other one I'd like to flag as well was the pre-qualification education program, and that the lack of progress on that is entirely my fault because I underestimated how much free time I had. So I was going to be doing that, but I didn't really do that. So I apologize for that. I have talked to Mallory and Allie, and we are getting together to dedicate some time every week to get that done. I know that's a board priority, and that one is entirely my fault. There's no other reason for that one, so I apologize. But everything else, I think we did a good job on. We are working, for example, with CORE on HOAs. We have a regular meeting with CORE. And the other one also we'd like to move forward is looking at legal resources for HOAs, and that was what I mentioned in my remarks as well. We've had ongoing discussions with Molly, and it was much more difficult than we anticipated, but we think we're in a good place for that. So we'll be bringing that for board discussion soon. And I think, and then we also, the board, it was on the work plan, and we brought it towards the board if you wanted to look at all Valley public institutions, and you didn't want to look at that, so we completed that. And Emily also briefed you all on the data dashboard earlier in the summer, which will be live on the new website. So we have some suggestions in the board packet on page 200. These are our suggestions. We welcome any more input. If there's things you don't want there, if there are things you'd like added. So the 2027 affidavit, as you discussed with Jackie a couple weeks ago, we have some ideas to make that go more smoothly. The pre-qualification education program, we have solicited topics for that, and there are a number of off-the-shelf items we can incorporate in that, videos from CHAFA and others. So that's very important, and we will be getting on that. Scattered site rentals includes making sure we are aware of, as we mentioned in the discussion earlier, which ADUs do have a work requirement. We don't think we've captured all of them, so we'd like to make sure we capture all of those. We've had some ongoing issues with self-employed people. It's in the regulations what we look for as self-employed. We'd like to improve that process for everybody, make it easier for self-employed business owners and to demonstrate that they're working, and also reduce friction when we are doing the qualification process with them. So that would be in terms of both education and maybe some updates to the regulations. HOA policies and programs to support capital reserves and capital maintenance. That's, again, I mentioned that we have some ideas on that, but we have been not able to bring it to the board for approval. Property management is a big project. We are trying to improve our interface with under the APCHA managed units at Trustcott and ACI and others. So we're switching to a different property management system. Home Trek improvements, we are switching vendors for Home Trek. So that'll be it's ongoing now, but we're very excited that we think we can get better bang for the same amount of money, but that's quite a big project to switch vendors for that. I think I mentioned this, but I'm with Cindy leaving us in March. I'm actually directly managing the property management section of APCHA. So I'm working on some property management process improvements to try and make it easier both for the clients and and the property manager themselves. Just based on what I've seen, I think we're stretched pretty thin there, and I'd like to improve that process. The affordability study, I mentioned we're working on.
Real quick.
Yeah,
I think
sorry.
John has a question.
Sorry, John.
I just wanted to make sure I heard that straight. Maybe I was not paying close enough attention, but Cindy's leaving us in March?
Yes.
All right, I just had to make
I
sure
retired
that
March
that
1st.
fully registered so I can.
I started March 1st, 1990. I'm
Yeah.
retiring March 1st, 2027.
That's kind of a beautiful symmetry to that.
How do we download your brain?
That's what we're trying to do.
I'm trying.
That's
I'm
what we're
trying.
that's exactly exactly
I'm
what we're
not
trying to
leaving
do.
the area.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a partially retired person living in employee housing.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's exactly what we're trying to do right now, John.
Just wanted to wrap my head around that because it's a bit
It's a
of a
big
shock.
change for everybody.
Based on the data Liz gave us, you'll still have 0.3 jobs.
Can you go more into that property management process improvements? What does that actually entail?
That's, APCHA we have 370
Yeah, around 370.
370 properties,
Okay.
units that they're city-owned units, which we manage directly.
Okay, so it's with regard to just the
Right.
APCHA
It's the
management.
APCHA
Okay.
managed properties.
Okay.
So, for example, we're trying, Tom Smith is looking at the current lease. I think we're trying to see if we have more teeth on, for example, late rent payments. There's kind of a tendency that people, once we nag them about their late rent, they write us a check for everything. That's a huge amount of staff time, especially with the new Colorado tenant landlord laws, which means everything has to be, you can't just send an email. There's a particular form you have to fill out. You have to knock on the door. You have to knock on the door twice before you can leave it. So so all those infractions are taking up a lot more time than they were even a year ago. We're trying to get better hooked up with Aspen PD, for example. We've got one situation where there was an incident, and we're trying to use our legal ability to remove that person.
Okay.
And so that kind of thing. And I think, just based on what I've seen, I think we're stretched a little thin there. So we're trying to find process improvements to make it a better experience for everybody. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
and it was mostly just about APCHA managed versus
Right.
the broader
Right.
housing inventory. Thank you.
Emily.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I also just wanted to add one of the third thing that Matthew mentioned pertained to one of your comments earlier during Liz's presentation about ADUs and CDUs, and that falls under that scattered site rentals outreach and survey. And that's something that I've been working on and I'm working and continuing to work on, but that's trying to get a more complete inventory of those ADUs, CDUs, and then surveying those owners with some questions about, if what would help them rent their unit if they currently aren't, since it's not required. So that kind of is on our radar, and I've been talking with people at the city and county about it too. So
Thank you.
just wanted you to know.
Thank you.
Then I was just quickly going through this, just spark further discussion. Yeah, and then and then under the home track, property management, the affordability study. We want to do, as I mentioned, a lot of outreach to update older deed restrictions, which is, good for the organization, good for the city and the county. And thanks to the new deed restriction updates with the 3% flat, that's a good deal for the owner as well. So we want to make sure that's in there. And then also talking under leadership, we have the fire mitigation strategies. We like to do more development on that with HOAs and individual owners, and then also using some of further mobile home replacement and renovations at turnover, and explore that further. So, I think that seems like a good place to start the discussion. These were things we pulled from discussions the board has had over the past 6 months or so, including moving over some things we didn't get to last year. So, I'd like to have a discussion if you think we're on the right track, if there's anything else you'd like to see, a different direction, or anything we've missed.
Okay, so I think now is a good time to shift to the work plan discussion. So we've got an hour. So just so I understand, just to clarify for maybe those watching, so this, so the proposed list that we've got here, there are a number of items on here that don't really require any board input. So this is what staff, APCHA as a whole, will be
correct.
Will be working on. So I mean, when I look at this, I mean, it's there's a big chunk of this list that doesn't require much from the board. And I think, given the presentation that we saw earlier, I think we've got a lot of things that we need to address, which so makes me look at this and say, is APCHA understaffed? And is that something that we should be looking at, right? If we've got new rental requirements that are taking up more time, we've talked about having the affordability study on here, which is not going to be done until next year, but is going to require APCHA time to do it, right? Do we have the appropriate level of staffing is sort of the question that pops into my mind, but I'll pause.
The question is, Matthew, do you think that our staff can do what we already have on the list? Is that kind of what
just I look at capital reserve policy and I look at right sizing. I mean, you could have those two items as the only two items to do, and right, it's those are such BD complex, and you start getting into those, and it brings up a myriad of other issues. That's my take. I look at this and I wonder if we have the correct amount of staffing and if we need to.
I agree with you, because I think these are all kind of, some of them will require a heavy lift, and I think they're, again, to this presentation, super important, and we can't just let everything lag because we don't have enough staff to really implement and go after it, because we don't, as we see, we've got some significant issues that we need to start tackling. So if we don't have enough staff to really be able to help go after some of these issues. Sorry.
Thank you. Like bended towards you.
Oh, sorry. So if we don't have enough staff because they're consumed with having to do all these new regulations, and we're not able to tackle right sizing or tackle some of these, like the housing stock preservation, which the mobile homes, so those things take longer and longer, we might be creating more problems for ourselves down the line.
And we're losing Cindy.
So we need 5 people for that.
Are those concerns founded? Are those concerns founded, staff? Does it feel like we're understaffed or we need more help?
It feels like there's always plenty of work to do. I think going back a couple years, Emily has done a tremendous job, and that role has grown into something which is producing, in a good way, more work, because Emily is generating ideas. I think we're adequately staffed now. We just hired Mallory. That's a new position to back up qualifications and sales. We hired Meg as an outreach director relatively recently. I think it's something we should keep an eye on, but I think right now we're okay. But I'm not sure that's gonna be true, in a year or two from now.
By the numbers, 99% compliant. Pretty good result. understaffed organizations wouldn't be able to do that regularly, I don't think.
Right.
So that's
I
good.
mean, yeah. I don't wanna monopolize
But Carson, you are, that is definitely something.
And I
to
guess
be aware of.
I say that because just the, you know, the quick and nimble speed that governments move, I mean, is the time to start that discussion now.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Budgets and
Right.
and hiring the right person and just everything that goes into it. So, please jump in.
I agree with you. I just think whatever we need to do, whatever we can do to help you guys be more efficient
Yeah.
and cut the red tape, like you said, things aren't always quick and nimble when you're dealing with government and hiring and staffing and training and what have you. And I just don't want us to hit roadblocks that prevent us from being able to implement some of the things that we might need to implement in
So-
order to move the process
So when we were
forward.
redoing the org chart, coping with Cindy's departure, so Cindy's actual job is going away. Deputy is going to be Bethany, but we did use some of that savings for a new position, which is Mallory, which is backup sales and qualifications. So we did look very carefully at spreading around the roles and responsibilities that Cindy was undertaking throughout the organization, and that included moving a couple people up levels. So we are aware of, staffing, and during this cycle, the immediate goal was dealing with Cindy's departure. We will, in future cycles, I think we will be looking at the staffing levels. But for this particular cycle, that was the goal, was to cope with that big change.
It sounds alarmingly like government efficiency. I'm amazed. I have a couple points here. I would say that we've done, I think, objectively, by the data and the reports that we've received, pretty well on our compliance piece of these goals. I think that there's still room, and obviously the pre-qualification education program is something that's still on our list. I think we've also done an increasingly good job with our community efforts, with our communication, with the way that we're engaging with the community, and I think that that's paying off. I think personally, we don't have a lot of purview over the quality of a lot of our properties, so that's lower on the priority list for me, except for the ones that you're now managing. And this won't come as a surprise to most of my fellow board members. I would really love to see leadership be emphasized on this board. And to me, what that means is we're facing unprecedented times with an unprecedented need for housing that nobody has solutions to, that requires advocacy on insurance, HOAs, on zoning, on codes, on setting new precedents, on getting big ideas onto the table. Maybe it's not taking them too far to where it becomes administrative burden, to where it takes staffing time. But I believe that in the spirit of what APCHA is, which is a precedent-setting housing authority that changed the game in this country. Obviously, our legal counsel today made a point that I think we should all carry home with us. Are you saying that our program can't effectively lower the cost burden on the people who we house? That's a failure. It's a failure of, to your point, of the nation, of a bigger economy, of things that are outside of our purview and control. But it's also something that's within, this area of our expertise. And if we, as an authority, as APCHA, as a leader in this space in the country and the world, want to continue to maintain that leadership, we're going to need to come up with new ideas. We're going to need to come up with big ideas. We're going to need to be uncomfortable and think about things that are new. And I think that that's not something that's easily put in a work plan, but I think insurance, navigating HOAs, and advocating, getting actually involved in the zoning and coding conversation is something that we could do that could really give some good things to the boards that support us. So that's my place. I've underlined some of the things that I think we're already doing and doing well. I think that your list looks great, but to Carson's point, that seems more like a work plan for staff than it does for the board. Mm-hmm. And so what I'd love to hear is what do we want to accomplish? How can we support, not by just saying, go for it, Matthew, this looks great. How can we support what he's written down for his staff through our actions? And I'll stop there.
And I think, if there are big, blue sky policy ideas that you'd like us to look at, we can look at them, and then if that emerges, a year from now, that's good information. A year from now, if I do have to come to the city and the county and ask for more staff, we can say, these are some of the things we're trying to tackle, and we haven't been able to. So, if there are particular policy ideas that you'd like us to explore and put in the work plan to develop, that's great.
I agree with what Scott has pointed out, but I would also say that in the short period of time I've been on APCHA, what's 2.5, 3 years, we have explored a lot of new topics just in my time here. Right sizing, capital reserves, HOA grants. It's been a pretty amazing journey. I do think we need to adjust the income categories. That's, I think, a glaring thing that can really affect some change.
I mean, I completely agree. I mean, when you set a cap on income, I mean, the unintended consequences, like we've talked about, people don't take that promotion. They don't work that overtime, right? And we end up capping people's income, which is not right. We have to balance that with the lower categories, but like it's
trapping people.
It's the Valley has changed since the program was set up.
It's also capping their ability to contribute, right? It's saying, contribute less.
Right.
Well, and a lot of these discussions we're having are also because of the age of our program. Our program is the envy of municipalities all across the state, if not the nation. But it's because we instituted it before anybody else did, and so now we've got some age-related issues that are coming up, like HOA fees and capital reserves and the clogging up of the system with, I shouldn't put it that way. The fact that we have a high percentage of retirees in our system is an issue which we didn't see coming, but something we got to deal with.
I think all the new programs out there are kind of watching to see how we handle that one because they're not actually there yet, and they're like, they followed us the whole time. I would love to have that conversation about the categories and options there as well, and I don't know if that's for this discussion.
Well, and so that's a little bit, it's cart and the horse. I mean, so when we did the affordability study, we started talking about categories and where's the right number, and all the things that we've talked about that go into that calculation of the 30%, and are we doing that correctly, and factoring in just all the other expenses that people have living in Pitkin County, and that's what the affordability study should address. And so we could look at them, and maybe that's something that we do, is that we look at them now and then we reevaluate when the affordability study is done. But it's sort of it's a little bit. We're kind of shooting from the hip if we don't.
Yeah, and I don't think we need to talk about it now. That could actually be something more for like a board retreat for us to discuss rather than have it on as a work plan. I don't know. But I agree to sign on to the idea that all these things are worth reassessing regularly. On the work plan, I don't know. I love it. I think I've heard a few ideas that make me wonder in the community part if we could also further support HOAs who, in my experience in HOA, they are revolving boards of people who feel like they need to do their time and then get off as soon as they can. And there's often there's not a lot of info on how to be on an HOA and what's involved there. And I almost wonder if there's something, and this is not meant to task staff with more, but how we would cover this. But I feel like we have HOAs that are very effective, and we have some that are kind of floating around rudderless. And when we talk about aging inventory and the need for maintenance and stuff, That's where like effective HOAs are really needed. And I just wonder if there's something that we could do to support HOAs, and I don't know exactly what that would look like, except for maybe setting up HOAs collectively in a group to have periodic meetings for those active HOA people who just need some help. Like, they don't even know what's coming, they don't know the opportunities. And I haven't formed this thought, it's just after looking at this, like, is there more we can do to support them? Because there's a bridge between what goes on in this room and what goes on in the office, and it's that group that I think is the place that needs to be strengthened a little bit. And I don't know what it looks like, but I think we could do
I think we're
something.
doing more than we ever had, but I think there's a lot more to be done on that.
Yeah.
Like, Meg set up these sessions. We've had several opportunities for the HOAs to get together. She's got her newsletter, which is new this year. But
And
there's
one's
certainly,
coming up. I think there's one coming up.
Yeah, but there is absolutely
yeah.
more work to be done on that.
Yeah, I just think I think that would be great in terms of what can we do to support the program here.
So we've done capital reserve studies.
Yeah.
Right. We've had legal support for HOAs that want to redo their documents. We've done a ton of HOA outreach, and then if you look at the second item on here, which is the pre-qualification education program, I think a lot that goes into that is helping buyers understand what, like personally, I think one of the ways that we should do that we should look at doing this is, I think that we should look at, just as we require, so we require when somebody buys a property that you have to submit the HOA budget. It's one of the things that you're required to give. I think we should also require the capital reserve study, and because if a buyer doesn't understand, I think back when I got my condo in Snowmass, it was an HOA. I got the budget. I look at budgets all day long. I understand the way, but I didn't go out and walk the property. I don't know when the boiler needs to be repaired and the roof needs to be replaced. And so the numbers sort of don't mean anything because there's no context. So as part of this pre-qualification education program, if we can educate the buyers and get the capital reserve studies so that the buyers at least, we have a duty to the buyers to help them understand that, hey, you may be buying into an HOA that has not done anything, and in 4 years, it's realistic you could have a $50,000 special. That's the kind of stuff where I feel like if the buyers understand that, you're exactly right. There's a bunch of HOAs that are very well managed, that take care of business. We had some that were super high in their capital reserves. The only way some of those HOAs that don't reserve, that are lagging in maintenance, the only way that there's ever going to be any sort of accountability or change is if they go to sell and the buyers say, I don't know if I want to sign up for that because I don't have the money to pay for that. And it's sort of, so, I think it's hand in hand, the pre-qualification of the buyers, and then also, looking at the capital reserve policies, and maybe there's a way that we can do those two things. As we sort of capital reserves, we talked about it for years, and as we kind of dig in, and why I say that, as we dig into the capital reserves problem, it seems like it's whack-a-mole. You touch one thing and 3 different issues pop up, and that's why I say we could look at capital reserves only, and that could take up our whole schedule, because there's so many things that go into it, because you get HOA budgets, and then insurance, which then touches affordability, and there's so many pieces in that, and so many drivers that cause that. I think a lot of it is not people don't want. It's not that there's not a desire to have a healthy HOA that maintains the building. I think it's just a lot of it is simple economics of, we've got an aging population that is, fixed incomes and rent burdened, and right. So I think that this is a good starting point, but I keep coming back. I do think that as we dig into these things, we're going to have asks that I don't know that staff is going to have time to do, and so that's why I keep coming back to that. And then the only other one that I would add is, in today's day and age, from a technology standpoint, are there things that are huge time consumers that we could automate? So
I think, though, your point about the HOAs, trying to educate people who are either on the boards or being interested, and some of that might be the new buyers, because they might be someone who's got the energy and is interested when they're looking at it, is so important, because to your point, the well-managed ones, great, but the ones that aren't managed, what's happening is some of these HOAs, we've seen it time and time again, fall into various scenarios where they can't get loans. And the problem is most people go, I don't care, I'm not selling right now.
Right.
So they don't care. But then eventually they go to sell and they have a problem. But what happens is the next person who's buying in, you're creating your own affordability problem, because now they can't get a traditional mortgage. So the banks and the options are more limited. So they're having to go to a few of them who are having to do, portfolio loans, which tend to be a higher interest rate. So now you're driving your cost up even more. And it just creates a cycle. Or, a lot of people will go, no, I'm not going to buy into that, because we might have a $50,000 assessment. So you go down the list. And now all of a sudden you end up with someone who really should only have priority on a 2-unit property being able to get a 3-unit property. And now, again, we've kind of created problems that are going to continue to be problems for us as we go down the line. And a lot of that does start with the people who are running these HOAs, to understand that while they themselves right that particular moment, it may not affect them, but how that's going to play out, and that is often long-term problems for their HOA and for them. That kind of stuff doesn't always just get solved quickly. I mean, we've seen it over and over again in these HOAs that get in those predicaments. It takes sometimes decades for them to clear that.
Negative feedback loop that just
Correct.
keeps getting worse.
And then it's just causing more and more problems that we're seeing, in our stats, that it's not helping us kind of gain ground. It's perpetuating a problem. So I do think it starts, yes, with educating people as they buy in, but also with those boards to really understand the power of it in the responsibility of what they're signing up for, that it isn't just put your name on a list and show up to a couple meetings, that if you're not willing to do what it takes, let somebody who is take the lead, kind of thing.
I would say what you said again, which is.
Is your mic on? Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would repeat what you said, which is that our ability to give accurate information to a buyer of a house within our authority, it's incumbent on us to protect them. I mean, our mission is supports affordable workforce housing for a sustainable community. And if we're getting buyers into a place where special assessment means their fees are going up by 300 to 400% over a short period of time, we are not accomplishing our mission, either in affordability or sustainability of the community. So I'm 100% supportive of, I don't know how to frame it in terms of the work plan, but I'm hearing that we want to both support HOAs by providing them with educational material, information, access to legal counsel and advice. We also kind of want to wrangle them a little bit. Like we need to support them through channels of quality improvement, or however we want to frame this, but making sure that all of our HOAs are doing an excellent job is part of what we're sitting here for.
Well, and we've talked ad nauseum about APCHA's, about our PR, and right, and I want HOAs to see APCHA as a free resource and not as somebody who's going to come in and take over the reins and tell you what to do. And I really think that that's where we're heading, because, and so the pre-qualification, I mean, maybe to add to that is existing owner education, because there has been, I've gotten the feedback on the capital reserve studies. Well, we did the capital reserve studies and they raised our dues. Yes, maybe that did happen. The alternative is you do nothing and you roll the dice, and maybe you get a giant special assessment, and maybe you live there, maybe you don't, but.
Or maybe you don't have running water.
Right.
Well, it's educating them as to why that was.
Why?
What
We're not
that's actually
doing-
maybe a good thing,
Right,
but it's the
right.
education part. Yeah. That's lacking. People just, like I said, only see the dollars in that particular moment.
I would say that it's better to use the carrot, not the stick in this instance, and use the education information language as opposed to the requiring of this and that for this and that. Because then we can, walk the talk. We really are just here to help.
Christine.
Yeah, I'm just, I'm trying to balance between how, and you touched on it, there is a large part of the community that does not want APCHA more involved in their home ownership or their rental. And so how to support HOAs without being more involved, I think, is what we're trying to achieve here. And so maybe I think we're all seeing that needs to go in the work plan in some way.
I think it's under HOA policies and programs to
Yeah.
support. I mean, that is what we're trying to do. Support.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything right sizing?
Well, right sizing is an interesting one, because I think I've been having talks about right sizing for 12 to 15 years now, so it's not a new conversation. We dove into it pretty detailed last year. I think we're identifying needing to maybe look at it again, but no one has been able to identify how to make that work, and it's not a new conversation. So I don't know if we want to kind of rinse and repeat on it or try to find something different, because it hasn't been not implemented because for lack of trying.
Well, and I think it ties directly into the moving assistance program that we looked into as well. I mean, they're all intertwined.
Yeah.
And how do we get people to take advantage of right sizing and helping them move if we were told a lot of them simply don't want to. These are their homes, and this is where their community is. So there's some tough nuts.
Have we
gotta
done
crack.
surveys on that? Do we know how many people? Because, like, to your point,
I mean-
we hear there's 3-4 people who want to do it but can't afford to, and then we hear a lot of people don't want to do it. Like, is it really something? Are we going to get enough
we've
juice
done
out
a
of that
study on it.
squeeze?
Yeah,
There was like five people or something, right? That were.
It was surprisingly low.
There's 5 that. Go ahead, Matthew.
There's a senior outreach.
Yeah, we've done focus groups, we've done senior outreach, Liz did a survey, we've done a lot, and in our experience, people want to right size in theory, but they want to right size to a particular unit, a particular development. They want the option of being able to move, outside the valley, but we haven't had, on all the different things we've tried, we haven't had much movement.
Do you think there'd be more interest in the moving out of the valley than the right sizing? Have we surveyed that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Insane.
There was a lot of discussion.
Yeah, the
City,
city of Aspen did a study on it. Our assistant city manager took the reins on it, and she stressed that it was really a one-time deal, right? You could offer this, but you could only do it once, because otherwise in a couple of years, people would expect it again.
Right.
And so we're not creating any new units, we're just changing the end date.
Real quick, Tom's got his hand up before we get too far down. Tom, sorry, we've got the new webinar thing, and I'm not logged in correctly. I can't see your hand, so I don't know how long you've had your hand up, but
All right, can you hear me now?
yes.
this, I've got a new display set up here for the first time. I've had trouble navigating it myself. So, I'm changing the subject here briefly, compliance. I don't know if you want me to do that now or you want me to wait.
That's fine.
Go for it. I have
I just have a couple of quick comments on it.
Really quickly, Tom, we have one more thing to finish up here, and then we'll pass it to you.
I just follow-up thought that as we're talking about right sizing and moving assistance, and I don't know where this fits into APCHA, but the creation of senior-specific housing is potentially something to explore because we don't have a lot of that in the Upper Valley. We even heard last night from someone about the senior center that they are starting to exceed capacity just for programming and dining. And we have very limited options for people to move into assisted living or kind of senior specific. Yeah, and so maybe that's something to think about as an option for people who want to move or downsize.
Tom?
Okay, just a quick, couple of quick comments on compliance. I don't want to get out in front of Matthew on this, so I'm just going to throw out a couple of thoughts. We've got 3,000 units, half of them are ownership, roughly half of them are rental. On the ownership side, just institutionally, from my perspective, I think we're in good shape staff-wise. We have since we've had a compliance officer in place, it's been a major improvement in enforcement, compliance and enforcement with respect to the ownership units. On the rental side, as Matthew mentioned, the landlord-tenant laws have become much more complicated. Evictions are much more difficult procedurally than they've ever been. There's most of the units are privately owned rental units. I don't know that we don't have a central compliance person for rentals. I don't know at this point if we need that. Unlike the ownership side, there's nobody on staff who has a comprehensive understanding of the new landlord-tenant laws. And, you know, every case has to be referred to me, even just for investigation. So anyway, I'm not putting a proposal out there. I'm just raising a question about whether there needs to be any sort of comprehensive reevaluation of how we perceive, how we handle the tenant side of the program compliance-wise.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, so in just looking at this proposal on page 200, let's maybe just everybody, let's take a look at this. And I'm just going to sort of run through here line item by line item, and let's just sort of talk about the existing ones that are on here. And if, I guess with the existing ones, the question would be change or remove. And then at the end, we can have a discussion about whatever we want to add. Does that sound good?
Great.
Okay, so 2027 affidavit. Anybody? I think that one pretty straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
Pre-qualification, APCHA pre-qualification education program. Keep that one. The only thing I had there, I mean, I think that one stands good. Scattered site rentals, outreach and survey. We need to keep that one, I think. Additional resources around transparency and self-employed qualification process. We've heard a number of comments about that. I think that one makes sense. HOA policies and programs to support capital reserves and capital maintenance.
I almost want to just like broaden that a bunch.
I agree.
Support HOAs and then put capital reserves, legal.
Just support HOA policies and programs.
Yeah.
HOA policies and programs support.
Insurance, yeah.
I mean, because there's so many things that go into that, and yeah, I think that's a huge bucket. Again, I think we have some work to do from a communication standpoint. That there's not a gotcha. I mean, it really is. We are here to support HOAs because we have a common interest.
Yeah.
We may not be a part of your association, but we want to help your association. Yardy, property management, straightforward. Home Trek, obviously, we got to keep that. Property management process improvements sounds like that's straightforward.
Question on that, has that ever been talked about contracted out?
It's about to be.
Yeah, but.
We are taking, yeah, I've had discussions with Pete, and we do have some ideas which may or may not.
The recording has stopped.
So, yes.
This meeting is being recorded.
We'll see.
We don't need you being a property manager.
No.
Yeah.
I'm not.
My thinking.
I'm not a huge fan of that side of the job. No.
Yes.
Need you dragging hoses.
Okay, and then partnering with the city to conduct and analyze an affordability study. I think we want to continue that.
in process, but yes.
Outreach to replace, update older deed restrictions.
Yep.
The only thing I would add there is, let's keep an eye on that. If we're not getting adoption.
Stop saying it.
What?
Like stop screaming it so loud. Change tack.
Change our track. If we're, I think we need to track how, because reaching out to individuals, 1,500 or whatever the number. I mean that's
a lot of work.
That's a ton of work.
Okay.
So
thank you for saying.
Let's maybe do like let's maybe just do like a quarterly just a quick in your director's comments, just what the adoption has been, and then we can decide if that's something we need to change track on or back off of. Or, I mean, at the end of the day, it's in the homeowner's interest to update their deed restriction for a whole variety of reasons. And maybe there's a one-page document we could put out and send just that document in the newsletter or whatever. Here's why you should do that.
Yeah, I think Meg plays a bigger role here through communications.
And she's got, like I mentioned, she's got a separate landing page on the website. She's coming up with a flyer. So we,
Let us know how we can support staff. Is I guess the okay. HOA newsletters, community newsletters, events.
I mean, we're kind of doing that anyway, so maybe we don't need to put that in the work plan.
Yeah, we can take that one out.
I mean, it's happening.
It's happening. Yeah, we can. Yeah. The fire mitigation strategies, outreach, and partnerships in the community. I mean, I'm obviously a fan of that one. I feel like we could. I feel like that one almost falls under capital reserves.
Mm-hmm.
It's under.
I do too.
Agreed.
So we can take that one out as a separate line item and just know that that's something. I mean, yeah, I think that's something that could just be part of a.
Put it in the big bucket.
Yeah, it can just go in the big bucket. And then housing stock preservation specific to mobile home replacement and renovation of units at turnover.
I like
Jackie
that one.
is that one that you have
I
a
like
personal
that one.
interest in?
Yes, I have a little personal interest in
Okay.
that one, but yes, given where I live. But yes, I in general, I think it's a good one, because again, on our stats, the cost of these aging units, how can we help keep them? I get a lot of people talking to me about that. I'm sure you all do too.
Yeah. Yeah, and I get comments both sides about you should let the unit owner do the renovations.
Yep.
Right, like we've talked about, and then it's like the reason
And
the reason for not
yes.
doing that, right? I mean,
Yep.
so
Yep.
The old bootstraps argument.
And I think, like I said, my when we get to that, my question would be for staff to tell us, like, how can we help cut red tape and help expedite some of those things? Because I do think the quicker we can turn and maintain the units, the faster we can get more people in these homes and hopefully start to little by little chip away at those terrifying numbers we saw.
Okay. So then I think we pulled out a couple or moved them into different buckets. What do we want to, if anything, add?
I think we should add transition and right sizing back to the community conversation. Whether it's, even if it's just a higher level kind of board discussion about where we want to stand there. It's unclear to me what our role is. I mean, we keep coming back to it. And last year the conversation went pretty deep, but then the number that we got back just wasn't enough to make a dent. And so I think that there's room for creative solutions here. And I'm imagining, you know, I think something I talked about last year was creating some sort of fund where when a new APCHA house is purchased, we seed that fund and it gains over time. I mean, even if it's absurd, I know that the chair is a banker and he's laughing
What
at
you're
me.
saying is we should set up a Scott account for everyone.
Oh no, I see what you did there. I'm pretty sure I'm on record saying this before that human said that. But those kinds of creative solutions, even if we're not tasking staff with coming up with the details of them, I think it is on us to come up with some sort of solutions here, because we just got alarm bells. There is a train, there is a brick wall coming at us. We're in an aging, population declining community that is doing this on the other end in the price realm. And so if we don't do anything about it, who's going to do it? I think it's our job to think of some innovative ideas to solve or at least address it. I would love to hear the board's feedback.
I totally agree, because I think also with the aging population, you get into the maintenance of these properties as they age. People become fixed income, they can't go do some of the properties, you get more and more problems, so when they turn. But yeah, so I think whatever we can do, even if it's only 5 people who said they wanted to do it, I think if you can create real scenarios as opposed to just, like in our neighborhood, there've been quite a few units that don't turn until somebody passes away, and then it's APCHA stepping in, and it's, lengthy.
I think
and pricey.
I think Christine raised a good point on that. I mean, I agree it's a problem, but we've also had a lot of discussion on it over 2 years, and sort of hit the brick wall of a lot of it is finance driven. I mean, we have to live within the bounds of budgets, and I mean, we went down that road many times. We changed the program a couple of times, and we sort of ended up at a dead end where we had people that, like Cindy said, they only want specific units, or they're not willing to move. I mean,
I think I think that the carrot is out there, and unless the board is willing to start talking about the things that nobody in this community, that no one is willing to go to in terms of signing new deed restrictions that ask people to move out at a certain time, then it's kind of, we've done as much as we can on the incentive side of this. And we've heard, at least I've heard loud and clear, that people don't want to start talking about the disincentive side of it. And so
right.
I don't want to go there, but
We've
board members might.
We've discussed cash transfers as an incentive to leave your home. I believe that there are other areas where we can find other incentives, other value propositions, and other ways to deliver that message that give, I think, more options, more chance. And I think what Jackie said is important. If even 5 retired people are able to live a dignified life, I think it's worth it for us as a board.
Yeah, I mean, we have a program in place. They can
Right.
do it, so
Agreed.
that will continue.
Perhaps it's so looking at things like you suggested, like more senior housing, instead of just
Yeah.
the same road that we have trod along. Perhaps there's other options, like what you were saying. I don't know, but, you know, pie in the sky, kind of shoot the moon. Let's see if we can think of something other than the avenue that we have continued that sounds like has been pretty well exhausted. Is there anything else there? Because, I mean, I don't know, but it keeps coming up. And yeah, I don't in any way think that I'm not for the disincentive, to your point, but I feel like we do keep hearing, oh, there's people who, you know, we all hear this. There's articles written in the paper about it, editorials and whatnot. You know, we're talking about not capping people's income because we're holding them hostage. Well, in some ways, aren't we doing the same if we don't kind of try to at least, you know, to your point, there is some solutions, but maybe they're not when their house is already paid off and they would have to switch to one and the dues or whatever. You know, maybe we're not understanding why people aren't choosing the incentive, and if we can find other avenues. I don't know. It may give us nothing. We might run into a brick wall again. I guess I just keep coming back to we can't build our way out of this. So we need to figure out, here's the resources we do have. How can we utilize them better? And it does seem like there's got to be something there that we could, some way to tap into that resource.
I would point to one of our 7 values as a board is innovation. On our website, we say we'd like to foster creative solutions to solve problems and increase cooperation in the community, be open to new and more effective ways of doing business, and have a long-term vision and strategy for success. What I'm hearing today is that our long-term looks bleak, and we don't have a strategy for success. And so I would say it's on us.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't think we should add right sizing, but if it's
Maybe it's not right sizing.
Right, I don't think we
we're
should
not
add.
doing it.
I don't.
Okay.
Not that we shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
I don't think we should add it to the work
Right,
plan.
right.
And I think Christine hit the nail on the head. Is we have said if you live in a home and you want a brand new home, you can move out of yours and into a brand new home and not have to go through qualification. You can pick which unit you go to. You can pick who gets your unit, and we've not seen widespread adoption.
Okay.
And you know, I mean, I just again, I'm not. If there are other ideas out there, I guess I've not heard them, and so you know, I'm hesitant to add something.
I hear that because what we're saying is let's put the thing that wasn't working, let's put it back on the work plan. And so right sizing, I agree with you. That's not what we should be saying. I mean, first of all, everyone knows this is downsizing, and that's something that a lot of the seniors I've talked to have said out loud. They're like, great, I've now worked for this community for 40 years, and you're saying I can lose 2 of my bedrooms and move into a studio apartment? It's like, thanks.
Right.
And there's ego there. There's some ego there that's involved. I get that. But maybe the solution is to stop calling it right sizing and frame this as how do we get more people to transition into and out of this housing? And that is our goal. And if the question is more broad, it's not how do we make right sizing work? It's how do we create dignified transitions for people? Then our conversation can change, and maybe it will lead to more innovative thinking because we're not stuck in the here's some money, now leave your home framework. So I would love to consider us having the conversation in that different framework.
So you two, you're the voting members, right? Right?
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
You're yeah. So what do you guys think?
I mean, just as an idea, just listening to this, the one anecdote I can think of is a friend who wants to do a right size, and it's not involving a retiree, and got held up by being out of category by $20,000. And so the family
Going up?
Yeah, he was trying to move to bigger, and it was like, and there's circumstance for that, and that's why I think the category topic should be had at some point, and we don't have to do that right now. But maybe, and I don't know if this is a terrible idea or not even allowed, but maybe if 2 people are in the program and want to do some sort of swap, maybe some flexibility on this category thing, which seems to put up more roadblocks than solve problems, would loosen up the system. I don't know if that's a terrible idea, but that, in this one anecdote, would actually
Right.
solve that problem.
Because you're talking about transitioning between our categories for people who are already in the system.
Yeah, they're in the system, and it's like, and especially if you're getting to someone who's retiring in place, who income, that's all been turned on its head. They're not working anymore. Is a category for that 40-year
If
employee.
they're going down though, we don't look at their
Right.
income.
Yeah,
We do
okay.
one category, it's just
And-
going up.
Just going up.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Well,
so-
and then this is just a one-off example of someone that I
So
met with.
like
and-
on that, so when
Yeah.
we had, like, one of the discussions that we had was then we had the comments from people who would be in the market for that unit saying, wait, so just because they know somebody, they don't
Sure.
have to
No,
qualify,
that's-
right? And so
that's
then,
great.
and then I think from a,
Basically an RO.
Tom
then.
may jump in, but I don't think that we can just start waiving category.
Okay. Well, while we're throwing
right.
ideas around, I
Yeah.
just thought that,
So,
yeah.
But having a conversation about categorization
Yeah.
and where it applies is something that led us to adjust the rental rates, which I think is a huge boon to our community and is worth it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Tom does actually have something to say.
Tom,
Yeah, on the categories, they're set when the development approval is given. In other words,
sorry, we had to adjust the volume in the room here. Can you start over?
sure. On the categories, the development approvals by the city or the county will specify how many units at such and such categories. So changing the categories can be done, but it has to be done at that level. Now, that said, we adjust within the categories regularly. We adjust the financial aspects of how a category is defined. So there's
Right.
two aspects to it.
Again, I'm just, while you're saying, what do you think? I was just thinking of ideas that.
Love it.
So I'm hearing support from right sizing from Jackie and from Scott, and then
I mean, I
You're
love the
in
topic.
support.
If we're talking about specifically for the work plan,
yeah.
what's the harm? Is
Okay,
it- yeah.
great. So then we will, Matthew.
When we do this, we're kind of out of ideas on right sizing.
Yeah.
So, if this is a staff come up with new ideas, we're out of
Right.
ideas. So,
Okay.
sorry about that, but just
Fair
to,
enough.
Right.
Really
I mean,
good.
just
Yeah.
Everyone's
we'll
kind of out
need-
of ideas.
yeah.
So then maybe we
ideas.
put a pin in it for at least a year and see if we all get a little creative in a year. I don't know. Is that?
We can keep track of any that come up.
Are we talking about leadership right now? Is that the category we're talking about? Are we talking about community?
I think we're just talking about anything
We're just
else we
talking
wanna
about
add.
right sizing. I
don't
mean, we
know
can
if we're talking
decide,
about a
I
specific
mean,
category.
we can decide where we want to put it, but I think it's just in general,
Is it something we want to keep?
is the right sizing topic. And Matthew's point, I think, is a good one. I mean, like, we're bumping up against reality, and
We're also using right sizing again.
yeah, whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
I mean, we can
We have a
put
problem with
lipstick on the pig.
transitioning between categories within the system. We have a problem with transitioning out of our housing, right? There are two areas that majority of what we talk about in here are all about those two problems. Transitioning between houses and transitioning out of the housing authority so that we can get people to transition into our community. I feel like that's the conversation that we need to be having. It's the hard conversation. It's the one that's going to take time and that we're out of ideas about, but it's also what leadership and boards are meant to accomplish. It's on us. And maybe we have the discussion and after one or two times we pull our hair out and we say no. But I think I'm still going to push for it. And I know.
I'm okay putting, I'm okay putting it on, but I think we can have a discussion on it, but I think it does need to be led from the board of ideas of, like, we can just have a discussion on it and we can bring ideas and we can, staff can look into those and tell us, why those would work or wouldn't work. Does that
Or
sound
it's
good?
just an agenda item for a meeting instead of a part of an annual work plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we do that?
Yeah, I'm up for that.
Okay with
I
that.
agree.
Okay.
just to see if there's anything that is.
Okay,
worth
so,
warrants.
so,
Rises to the
so
top.
not add it as a work plan item, have an agenda item on it for discussion. Okay, I think that's a good compromise. Okay, anything else we want to add to the work plan? I've got one that I've kind of, process, technology, staffing, sort of like, so Tom was talking about the process of, do you need a rental? That fits into the staffing conversation, and then the technology is there technology we can use to help accomplish the process or to make staff more productive?
How did you phrase that, Carson?
Thoughts on that?
Well, it's going to be tough losing Cindy out.
Yeah.
You know, that's going to be the hardest
Right.
thing the biggest hurdle is
Right.
filling that gap.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so I wrote down process, technology, staffing, sort of. I think they're all three. So, you know, the process of how APCHA operates, and you know, is there technology to make it more efficient, and do we have the right number of staff?
New org chart.
Operations, yeah. I mean, Cindy, how long have you been with APCHA? You don't have to
36
tell us if you don't
years.
want to.
You know, I started with planning and zoning on the third floor of City Hall on March 1st of 1990. I moved to APCHA in the first part of June of 1992.
Wow,
So I've been with APCHA since 1992. Seen a lot of changes.
a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Got you beat by 7 years.
I know you do, Tom. You started with, you were the attorney for APCHA when I started.
Thoughts on that?
No,
a
I
long
totally
time.
agree, though.
Yeah,
I agree. Anything we can
Add that
figure
one.
out to be more efficient.
and we can put that under leadership. Anything else?
This was a really good discussion, thanks. Yeah.
Great. I mean, we've seen if you needed motivation of why we are all here, I think we got a lot of it tonight. And I think this is a good plan. I think there's a lot of good things here, and again, I mean, I think if I could shout the headline, it would be that APCHA's here to help HOAs. With that, Allison, good job tonight. Thank you. And I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And seconded.
Ready? Scott,
Yes.
Carson,
Yes.
John,
Yep.
Ted,
Yep.
Jackie.
Yes.
Meeting is adjourned, 6:28.